The August 3rd trade deadline is right around the corner, and we're going to talk National League East today. We're going to talk about what these teams need, what they want going into the rest of the season and into the postseason.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, man, I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat a low in the way, you can't hit it. You know you want to start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walking back, looking like we ain't cool then. The game's over, might as well put them back to the bullpen, oh yeah.
That's right, everybody, and we're bringing it back to the bullpen like we do every Monday through Friday. I'm Brett Chancey. He's Mike Stanton with 3 years together as Back to the Bullpen, now joining the #1 sports podcasting network. We bring you a show that gives you 19 years big league experience and a local expert analysis to break things down for you. And we're going to go around the league. We're going to talk about, towards the end, a tough rookie debut. The Cavalli suspension was reduced. Zach Wheeler was snubbed, all-star version, and then we're going to talk about this trade market heating up. Now, we could probably sit here, Mike, and talk about a ton of stuff, storylines, teams, blockbuster deals, but we're going to focus on the NL East today because, surprisingly, there are some contenders that are going to be looking for key pieces.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that the reason Major League Baseball season is so long is so that everybody has to put up with not just players that aren't performing well, but they have to all put up with injuries. And we're going to start at the top of this division, and it's going to be the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves are 52-37. You go, okay, yeah, that seems good, man. They're playing good baseball, except as of late, they have not played good baseball. They have done. They built a pretty good, sizable lead through this first half, but injuries have really decimated, especially in their pitching staff.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and one of the key aspects of, I think, this year is what does your team, whoever your team is, what do they have to offer back? Because you could be like 9-year-old Brett going into Toys R Us and want the entire store, but it all depends on what credit card or how much cash your father has in his wallet, right?
Yeah.
And so the Braves, they have a really good farm system, Mike, and you know, they have pieces. Now here's the deal. If they're looking for a top trade target, you automatically go to names like Tarek Skubal, Joe Ryan, Jose Soriano, Reed Detmers, Freddie Peralta, Sonny Gray. I mean, the list goes on, right? But who do you think is a solid fit for this team? Who do you think seems to fit in with what the Braves are doing?
Well, with the statement that you just made, which is an absolutely correct statement, you know, the Braves do have the pieces to bring in, well, pretty much whoever they want. The problem is the Atlanta Braves are not known as a team to go and pay top dollar for their players coming in. And not saying that they belittle anybody, but I just don't know if they're going to put forth the prospect list that it's going to take to get a Tarek Skubal. I think Joe Ryan is probably a good, solid piece. You know, they're not looking. They don't need a top of the rotation because Chris Sale has just resurrected his career last year. He's pitching almost just as well this year. So they're not looking for a number one, but they are looking for somebody that can pitch like a game 2 in a playoff series. And for me, that's well, of course, Skubal would be at the top of that list, but I think you're looking at Joe Ryan. I think Jose Soriano is a big name. If Freddie Peralta, and we'll touch on him a little bit later, if he can clean up his act a little bit, he has the stuff. He just hasn't pitched very well. So those are the names I think you're looking at, even maybe a Sonny Gray. So there's names out there for the Braves to look into, but they're going to be costly because there's a bunch of teams out there that are going to be looking for, you know, top flight starting pitching.
Yeah, definitely. So the Twins are 3-2 in Joe Ryan's last 5 starts, but he hasn't struck out any less than 5, and he struck out 9 twice. And so This is a guy, Joe Ryan, that I remember we had talked a couple weeks ago how the Twins said, we are not going to be selling anybody. Like everybody's staying in house and we are going to make a run. Well, sometimes reality sets in. And with the Braves, they have someone like J.R. Ritchie, Cam Caminetti, Dieter Fuentes. If they could get someone like Joe Ryan, it would probably demand some sort of top prospect back. Mike, and this Braves team doesn't have to swing for the fences with the Scooble, and not to degrade Joe Ryan, but Joe Ryan would be a nice addition with Chris Sale and the guys that are in house. That would be a playoff rotation that would be scary.
Yeah, and I think, with that idea, and you look at where the Twins are. The Twins are 3 games under 500. They're 4 games back in the division. They're only a game and a half back in the wild card. So there's so many teams in this type situation that, they're on the cusp. They're in the hunt, but do they have the team? So would you sell? Would you buy? And I think there's, like I said, there's many, many teams that are in this category. What may be a better fit, maybe a guy like Sonny Gray, because, Sonny is a pitcher, has pitched very well in Boston, but that is a team that is absolutely not going anywhere. They are going to be selling. So that may be another intriguing name for the Braves.
Yeah, definitely. Because what he did was Sonny Grace is signed through 2026, a 3-year, $75 million deal. And so, that right there, his price would be a lot less than, and that's also what you have to look at in this trade market is, Joe Ryan's a lot cheaper, but I think maybe his value just from what he's done could be a little bit higher. But any of these guys that we mentioned, I even I think Reed Depner's is kind of an under the radar, one of the more intriguing pieces because he's got solid stuff. Mike, if you put him in the right rotation, you get him with the right pitching coaches on a different team, and you get enough winning around him, you'd be surprised what some of these guys could do. Even, look, Robbie Ray. Sandy Alcantara. Now, I don't know that the Marlins trade Alcantara to a division rival, even though they're not the top of the division, but the Braves are. So, you've got I think the harvest is plentiful.
Yeah. Oh, no. There's plenty of options out there. They're just, everybody's going to be expensive because there's so many teams that are looking to upgrade. So it makes it a seller's market. Let's go to the Phillies. The Phillies, with Adolis Garcia's issue with the season-ending injury, the Phillies are looking for a combination of either a corner outfielder or a first baseman because, Bryce Harper could always leave first base and go back to right field. We know he would have no problem doing that, playing all those years in right. So this is a little bit harder because there are teams that are going to be looking to upgrade their offense, but the pool out there that you're going to be picking from isn't nearly as deep as the names we were just talking about starting pitching wise. And then again, there's several guys on this list that are going to be in that same situation. The teams are going to be in the situation where you don't know if they're buying or selling. It's guys like Joe Adell, Spencer Steer, Jarren Duran, that's the name that intrigues me. If the Tigers are going to sell, Spencer Torkelson, I think, is a good name. Even Wilson Contreras, who's been in the news, and we'll talk about him here in just a little bit. But, those are the names that I think the Phillies are going to be able to be willing to look at. Some people think Joe Adell is the guy, but I think Jarren Duran or maybe even Spencer Torkelson make more sense to me.
Yeah, definitely. Look, you even have guys, you can't ignore Cody Clemens. Roger Clemens' son is actually having a really good year this year. He's a guy that I think could be set up and propped up as someone, especially from the Twins' perspective, where you could get something back in return. I remember, I guess for years you've heard the, Mike Trout's from the East Coast, or
Yeah,
Mike Trout, could he end up in Philadelphia? I don't think that you
that would be
get
awesome.
him. That would be awesome. Can you imagine Mike Trout on the Phillies? That would be
Yeah.
a deadly combination. But the real question is, not only is what is the best fit, but are they going to package Dante Nori? Are they going to package Gabe Craig, Ramon Marquez to entice these teams? And that's what it's all about. It's about putting the bait on the hook, seeing who's willing to bite, and is the return going to move the needle? That's the thing. And I don't think the Phillies are in desperate need, because Adolis García, let's face it, the guy's a strikeout machine. He's a human windmill. But he can hit home runs, and he's hit clutch home runs in the postseason when he was with the Rangers. So that really is what you're looking. You're not you're looking to move the needle. You're not looking to put you on top with. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales to accounting, from inventory and marketing to everything, working in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working together with the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like it is in business. Any adjustment made is important. And what really impresses me is just how smoothly it can be implemented. Everyone knows their role, and everyone is on the same page. That's usually what separates good organizations from great ones. Great organizations win because operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/locked-on. That's odoo.com/locked-on.
And as much as I love the Clemens family, I don't know if Cody actually does that. I don't know if he moves the needle enough, because you're not talking about a team that in the Phillies that's just trying to make the playoffs. They've done that. They've set the bar higher. They're looking to contend for the National League pennant, contend for the World Series, and I think they need a little bit bigger stick than Cody. But you never know. I mean, you're right. He has had a good year. Okay, let's move on to the Washington Nationals. All right, the Washington Nationals are a team that, this is, if not the best, one of the best offensive teams in all of baseball. But where they have fallen short is in the bullpen. Now, every team, this is something, every trade deadline, every year, you can write this in pen, not in pencil, because you're not going to erase it. Every team could use a reliever. It doesn't matter how good your pen is. You could always use another arm in your bullpen. But this has been really the Achilles heel for the Washington Nationals. And you're talking about a team that right now in the standings they are 2 games over 500, 6.5 games back in the wild card, and 6.5 back in the division, and 2.5 in the wild card. So they're in the hunt also. But this is just a really good offensive team. Like I said, but everybody looking for relief pitching. Again, that kind of dilutes the market, but it's, Antonio Senzatella, Matt Gage, Sam Bachman. I mean, these are, good relievers that have had good first halves that aren't going to cost you a whole heck of a lot, because they're not looking necessarily for closers, but they're looking for guys that are throwing the ball well and they can make a difference at the back end of a game.
Well, the thing I like about Senzatella is he has an 8-0 record. He's not even a starter. Right. The Rockies have had some late inning come from behind wins, and he's been a benefactor of that, but he's got a sub-3 ERA, and he pitches in his home ballpark of Colorado. So you can have a sub-3 ERA as a pitcher in Colorado. That says something. And in like we talked about, there is going to be a lot of people that are going to be looking for these pieces. It's not just one team or two teams, it's multiple teams.
Yeah, and like I said, all these contending clubs, they're always going to be looking to upgrade their bullpen, and to have a year like Senzatella is, there's going to be a return for the Colorado Rockies. But I mean, you're not talking about a starting pitcher, which he was a starting pitcher, and he's actually made a pretty seamless transition into the bullpen. So we'll have to wait and see what the Marlins, or I'm sorry, what the Nationals are looking to do. We'll go to the Marlins real quick. The Marlins are probably looking for a bat. They're probably looking for a third baseman. Nolan Gorman, Royce Lewis. Those are the guys that you're looking at as far as this one is concerned. The question is, again, Lewis is with the Twins. Are the Twins going to be buyers? Are the Twins going to be sellers? He is owed just under $3 million for the rest of the season, so there's that to take into account because the Marlins are not one of the bigger markets. But they've played well. I mean, this is a team that has I think excelled as far as what we thought the expectations were. 7 games over 500. They are one of the wild card teams. They're 4 games back in the division. So they're right in the hunt for everything. And I would love to see a team like the Marlins, a smaller market team, put forth the prospects to go out and get a guy like Royce Lewis. But we'll have to see exactly what the Twins are going to do. So the Twins seem to be kind of in the middle of a lot of these conversations.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even with Royce Lewis, you can just look around the league. I'm sure there are teams that have guys that aren't going to cost you an arm and a leg. And look, if you're in it, you're in it. And especially 7 games over 500, the Marlins aren't a team that people, you don't circle your calendar as an opponent, no offense, and go, oh man, the Marlins are coming to town. Now, lately, they've been garnering a lot more respect. And then you have the Mets coming in last.
Sell.
Yes,
Well, whatever they can sell, by the way.
That's true. Whatever they can sell that doesn't have a massive price tag attached to it. And
basically, I think the only one that you can really look at, and the unfortunate thing for the Mets is he hasn't pitched very well. It's Freddie Peralta, who's got top of the rotation stuff. He just has not thrown the ball very well lately. So they need him to clean it up for the next couple starts, and if they do that, they'll be able to get something in return. But the Mets are kind of just they're just in a place that they've dug a hole financially that I just don't know how they're going to get out of.
Yeah, definitely. I completely understand that. Have you ever noticed how the second you search for something online, ads for that exact thing start following you everywhere? Or maybe you're traveling, trying to access a website, stream a game, or watch content you normally use at home, and suddenly you're hit with that message. This content isn't available in your region. Well, that's why more and more people are turning to ProtonVPN. ProtonVPN is a secure VPN service designed for people who want more privacy, more security, more control over how they experience the internet. It helps keep your online activity private, protects your data on public Wi-Fi, and gives you access to the internet the way it should work: open, secure, and on your terms. Unlike most VPNs, Proton is backed by strong European privacy laws, has a strict, independently verified no logs policy, and is built by a company focused on protecting users, not tracking them. In baseball, we spend a lot of time trying to worry about gaining an advantage and controlling what you can control. Well, if the same idea applies online, having the right tools can make a huge difference in your day-to-day experience. It's easy to get started right now. ProtonVPN is offering it to our listeners 70% off a 2-year plan when you go to protonvpn.com/LockedOnMLB. That's PROTONVPN.com/LockedOnMLB for 70% off your 2-year plan. That's protonvpn/LockedOnMLB.
Welcome back to Back to the Bullpen, presented by the Locked On Network. Now, we just went over the National League East. We'll continue to doing that in future podcasts, go all the way through the league. Now we're going to talk about one of the snubs. Now, Zach Wheeler has been nothing short of outstanding after missing the first month of the season. 8-1's got a 2.36 ERA, has been nothing short of spectacular. One of the best pitchers in the National League. But as of right this moment, he is a snub of epic proportions.
Yeah, I mean this guy went through 2 surgeries. Had a blood clot in his right shoulder last August. I mean, this is a pretty serious thing. This was probably something in the beginning Zach Wheeler probably wouldn't say. Maybe he said it out loud, but I haven't heard him. And as a player, you don't ever want to speak things like, is this career ending? Am I going to be able to pitch again? I guess you go through any kind of surgery, whether it's your shoulder or anything like that, and you always wonder how you're going to come back. This guy could be one of the Cy Young candidates this year, Mike.
Yeah.
He's pitching that well. And this is where I think the real diehard baseball fans get annoyed with the All-Star process. We all know that the vote is a popularity contest, but the pitching and the pitchers are really selected by the powers that be in Major League Baseball. Right. And so when you say Major League Baseball got this wrong, that's why we're saying that, because the fans don't vote on the pitchers. I think the fans, if they would have had a vote, probably would have put him in the All-Star game.
And I don't mind that. I don't mind that, and again, as of today this podcast, he's not on. That doesn't mean he's not going to be on. Okay.
True.
Because when you look at the numbers he's put up, like I said, it was 8-1. He has a WAR. Now remember, he missed the first month of the season. He has a WAR of a starting pitcher, wins above replacement, of 3.8. I mean, that is spectacular for a guy with 13 starts. Okay, he's pitched 80 innings, 55 hits, 84 strikeouts. Okay, one of the numbers I like to use just to give us a ballpark in relation to the rest of the league is ERA plus. People remember 100 means your league average. He's a 191. He is 91% better than league average. If that doesn't say All-Star in 13 starts, now we're not talking about 5 or 6 starts. We're talking about 13 starts. If that doesn't say National League All-Star, I don't know what does.
Yeah, exactly. And if the All-Star was a true measure of someone's first half, now I know you can't have everybody on the All-Star team, right? It's not a team of 100 players and there's no consolation prizes. But look,
and every team has to be representative.
That's true.
Not a written rule.
So
there's there, but again, there's no set number. There's going to be somebody that backs out. There's going to be somebody that's going to be sore. We've seen it. We see it every single solitary year. I've been nursing a knee problem. I'm going to sit out. Then you get so Zach. I'm going to say there's a better than average chance Zach ends up making in, but right now it's that's a tough one for me because Zach has been so good, not just numbers wise. Like I said, he was a big part of this this Phillies team getting back in the National League race, because you remember they let their manager go, and that was about the time that Zach came back and the Phillies turned over and went on a run.
Well, and I think another detail here is the All-Star game. I mean, the All-Star game's in Philadelphia.
Good point.
Good point. You have Bryce Harper as a legend selection who technically didn't earn it, other than Rob Manfred said, put Bryce in the All-Star game. No offense to Bryce Harper, because we've touted his talents enough. But, that right there is also, I think, another bewildering factor. I just think sometimes, MLB or just big corporations, just in general, people in leadership sometimes they just get it wrong, and they just miss the point.
This is one of those situations that none of us like to be patient. That is not our culture. We want everything at our fingertips. You want ice cream, I want ice cream right this second. You have to wait. No, I don't want to wait. And so we have to be patient here because we're not at the All-Star break yet. And so I still think Zach has a pretty good chance. All right, let's move on to the situation we talked about quite a bit last week, and that was the Wilson Contreras-Cade Cavalli situation, the suspensions after it wasn't really a brawl, but the bench clearing and then all the race baiting that came after that. Cade Cavalli's suspension has been reduced from 7 games to 5 games. That still seems a little excessive, but you got to remember he is a starting pitcher, and he actually isn't even going to miss a start. What 5-game suspension is, that's a 6-man rotation. I mean, so he just gets bumped back a day. We don't know what they did as far as the fines are concerned. That's something that's not usually disclosed. The fine was probably reduced also. So in a situation that it wasn't nearly as ugly as the incident wasn't nearly as ugly as all the post-incident situation happened.
Yeah.
Whether it's through the media, whatever. That was a lot bigger than actually what happened on the field.
No, it was. I have to agree with that. And the way that I feel like I can say that, or anybody can say that, is that, I mean, Wilson Contreras himself hasn't made a big deal of it. I mean, look,
right.
We got to understand this is between 2 grown men, and look,
in the heat of the moment,
what people, no matter what people think outside of the situation, it would be different, I think, if Contreras was outraged or hurt or publicly said something. Then you're going, okay, this is, and I don't think Cavalli was trying to dehumanize or I think it was a heat of the moment. He said something, and that is the problem with sports media, opinions, social media, everything being out there. I mean, you can agree to disagree with anybody on anything.
Yeah.
But I just didn't see anything overly just awful that he did. I mean,
I agree. I think it was a heat of the moment. It was something. I mean, there wasn't any, one of the big trigger words or anything like that. That's why it took a couple days for everyone to kind of come out and say, "Oh, this was triggering for this person or that person." And I thought it was completely overblown. But he will start serving his suspension immediately. That's once you appeal. Once the appeal comes in, whatever the suspension is, you start it immediately. The other 3 players that were suspended, including Wilson Contreras, they have not completed their appeals process. So that's where we lie with Cade Cavalli.
That's right. And we are going to wrap things up with a story about Eleazar Alfonso, whose major league debut was simply a really, really tough one. We'll do that next.
Welcome back to the Bullpen, presented by the Locked On Network. Your big league debut is a day that you will never, ever forget. It is one of the happiest days of your life because you've been dreaming about it most of the time for your entire life. But there was a Los Angeles Dodger that made his big league debut, we'll say, under serious distress.
Yeah, I mean, this is the day that everyone looked forward to. Mike, you remember your major league debut. Sure. Every player we see chronicle now because of social media. One of the good things of social media is you get to see the families, you get to hear the stories. And the Dodger Stadium gave him a standing ovation, a rousing ovation, because what happened was on Sunday morning, just hours before the game, he found out that his sister, Eliana, and his stepmother, Patricia, were found deceased after the June 24th earthquakes in Venezuela. And so right before he's supposed to make a major league debut, doesn't matter what team he's on, just make that debut. As a catcher, you find out that 2 people you're very, very close to have been lost. And one of the things that I loved hearing him say was he took it in, but he realized, I want to go out there and I want to play and make my sister and my stepmother proud.
Yeah, I don't want to call it a silver lining, but I think this probably was not a shock since they've been missing for so long.
Right.
This is probably something he's been thinking about. Well, since they were missing after the earthquakes, but the finality of it to say that they are gone on arguably the happiest day of your life when you get called up to the big leagues. I mean, I just can't imagine the turmoil going on in his heart and in his brain. But I like what he did was he went out and he performed in honor of them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's going to be some good days. There's going to be some bad days. But congratulations for being called up. But yeah, this is a day he won't forget for his entire life, but it's not going to all be positive.
Yeah. And they actually placed his locker next to Miguel Rojas. And also he does share personal connection. I believe his father and Dave Roberts know each other personally.
Okay.
The crowd just stood up while he went up to bat and just cheered for him. Even though he's serving as the backup catcher, this was his major league debut. And he says, every time I go to the batter's box, I'll be thinking about how she would yell from the stands telling me to hit the ball hard. And, that may be something that takes him and probably is something that will take him throughout his entire career.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so our thoughts and prayers go out to the Alonso family and all the families out there. Wilson Contreras is one of them. All the devastation that's happened in Venezuela has been just absolutely immense, and we feel for everyone out there, and it's just a horrible situation, and to be able to try and go out and concentrate and do your job in the midst of all that unknown and all that all that sadness is next to impossible, but these guys do it.
Yeah, definitely. No, they do. So with that being said, there are a lot of things that we still have to talk about this week. We are a week away from the MLB draft. We are a week away from All-Star week.
Right.
The trade deadline's getting closer and closer. So make sure y'all stay tuned in to Backs of the Bullpen. For those of y'all on video, check out the first ever Locked On 24/7 channel where all sports all the time. And then on audio, check out Locked On MLB, where Sully has you covered across the league. And whatever team you're a fan of, there's a Locked On show for your team. Whether you're an Astros, Orioles, Red Sox, or Padres fan, go ahead and check out their Locked On channel. So for myself and Mike and everybody here, y'all have a good one. Play ball and go watch a ball game.
Adios.